What's up, everybody? This is Fred Richani of TSC. We have right here via Skype a top NFL draft prospect. He's a quarterback out of the University of Tennessee, Chattanooga. We are talking to Nick Tiano. He is ready to take that next step into the pros. Nick, we appreciate taking the time out of your busy day. I know this is probably a whirlwind for you now that you're declaring to go pro. How's it going?
Hey, thanks so much for having me on. Yeah, man, it's been awesome. Just trying to enjoy the process and kind of make the most of these next few months. So it's really exciting.
It is pretty exciting, but you know something about pressure. Now, from what I understand, based on my research, you're actually also from Chattanooga, right?
I am, yeah. So Chattanooga's my hometown, so it was really cool getting to go back home and play, right there with friends and family.
How'd you deal with the challenges, all the expectations that come with that?
Yeah, I mean, it was super cool. Transferring back, I was really excited. I really never worried about the pressure. I knew my family and my friends would definitely welcome that opportunity to go, be able to see me play every game right there in town. They would welcome that with open arms. And, the coaching staff and the athletic department, they just made me feel right at home, right at ease about my decision. It was something I was really excited about. Kind of an opportunity that not many guys get. Not a lot of guys get to go play college football in their hometown. So for me, it was super cool, to play in a stadium that, I played Little League football in, played high school games in, then got to play, college football games. And it was just a really cool opportunity for me. The pressure, never really felt that. I felt right at home and really enjoyed my time there.
And you did transfer out of Mississippi State, and it's always tough to make that choice as a young man. Going from a big program to another school and everything, taking that risk because you could transfer and you could play and ball out, but there's other times where you might end up being in the same spot. So, did you know ahead of time when you realized, okay, I'm not going to play as much as I'd like in Mississippi State, that I'm going right here to Chattanooga, or were you kind of weighing your options?
Yeah, so when it came that time, I hated to leave Mississippi State. Really liked it there, but unfortunately, for me, like you said, to get the chance to play as much as I wanted, that's what I needed to do. So, I did. I weighed my options. When you're transferring, for me, it was before the transfer portal and all these things that guys have now. So I really had three options. I could go to junior college for a year, which I wasn't too interested in. I could have gone to an FBS program or gone and played an FCS. So for me, going to play FCS was the better choice because I could play immediately. I didn't have to sit out that year and lose the year of eligibility. And then to have the chance to go play at home in Chattanooga was just perfect. They had won 3 out of 4 conference championships. The program was doing great. And, like I mentioned before, the opportunity to go home, I just couldn't beat that.
You threw for 29 touchdowns the last 2 seasons at Chattanooga. But if people just look at your quarterback stats, they'll say, all right, it's a pretty good player. But then you look at the rushing stats here. 9 touchdowns this past season, having to use your legs. Before the previous season, you had a couple hundred yards rushing as well. Were you always kind of a runner, a mobile quarterback, or is that something that you kind of had to develop out of necessity to make things happen?
Yeah, I've always kind of been looked at as more of a pocket passer, just kind of always been a big guy. Don't really strike you as somebody that would run. But back in high school, my senior season, I had almost 1,000 yards rushing that year. So kind of, I've always felt like I'm a little more athletic than people give me credit for. But no, I didn't really run much early in my career. My offense, my sophomore and junior seasons was really pro style. Really didn't ask me to do much of that. But that coaching staff left and a new staff came in for my senior season, and we kind of ran more of the read option, zone read kind of stuff. And they asked me to run a little bit more, and I welcomed that and I enjoyed it. Any way I can help the team, I'm happy to do, and kind of took me back to my high school days, and I enjoyed it. So it was cool to do this year.
Obviously, you've been a college quarterback for quite a while now, entering the draft. But as far as physically and mentally, what would you like teams to know about you as far as being pro ready? Yeah,
I think for me, my biggest strength, I like to think, I try to be the smartest guy in the room. Playing quarterback, I think that's the most important thing. There's a lot of quarterbacks that are going to come out this year and every year that can throw the ball. Ty Spire will throw it a long ways. There's plenty of those guys, but I think the guys that succeed in the NFL are the smart guys who can kind of digest a playbook, kind of understand an offense and a game plan and go execute that on Sundays. And, I think that's what you see with, Brady, Manning, and Breeze. These guys, they go out there and they make quick decisions. They get the ball out of their hand and move the chains. And I think that's what it takes to play at the next level. And, that's something I take a lot of pride in, and I like to think it's one of my strengths.
Being kind of a newfound mobile quarterback now in some capacity, you still have to have the trust of your teammates, especially the offensive line, who also have to be the smartest guys in the room, or in this case, on the field. Can you stress to people that maybe aren't that familiar how important it is to have that relationship with your line?
Yeah, I think that's huge. It's kind of funny for me since I guess little leagues. My best friends have always been my offensive linemen. My best friend My best friend group, on my team for the last few years has been the O-line. And, those guys, that's the most selfless position in sports. They do a whole lot of work. The offense wouldn't go without them, and they don't get any of the credit. So I got a ton of respect for what those guys do. It's selfless the way they play. They play hard. They play every snap. They play hurt. They're tough, and, you got to have them to win.
I was doing a little bit of research on you, and you talk about respect. I got a lot of respect for you juggling two lives here between being a student, being an athlete now, going pro. Do you really have a 4.0 GPA with a business degree, pursuing your master's?
Yes. So it started grad school this past semester, and I was able to end up with a 4.0. So that's a good start. Hopefully, I can carry it out for the rest of this program.
So how are you able to keep that balance?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is tough, and guys struggle. For me though, it's that was my fifth season, so I'd had 4 under my belt. Kind of, I'd messed up. I'd learned from my previous years and my mistakes, and kind of found a routine that worked for me. Kind of balancing school and football, finding time to fit it all together. Worked out. So I had a good semester. Like I said, need to carry that on though.
Now I heard you got invited to a very important game that could help your draft stock. You want to tell us about it?
Yeah. So, very thankful to be invited to the NFLPA Collegiate Bowl. We'll be playing in the Rose Bowl. It's a huge opportunity for me kind of going into this senior season. I knew that, I really needed to have the chance to go play in one of these postseason all-star games. Playing in an FCS program, you don't always get the exposure that the guys in, the SEC or the Big Ten may get. So for me, I think it's just a huge opportunity to kind of be in the same stage as some of these bigger names and bigger school guys, and kind of show everybody that I can play, and give these scouts and these coaches an opportunity to kind of see me in person and show what I can do.
Who were some of your influences growing up? Was there anybody when you first turned on that TV and that drew you into football?
Yeah, you know what? I've always loved the game. I've always loved watching guys. Brady, Manning, of course, loved those guys. Growing up. When I was in middle school, Tim Tebow was in college, and man, he was my favorite player. I love the way he played the game, the passion, the leadership, the toughness he played with. I've got a fat head of him in my room back at home, so I love playing with him. And thankfully, I was able to play with Dak Prescott for a year at Mississippi State. Dak's been awesome for me. He was a mentor. I learned a lot from him, and he was just a great example for me when I was young. Is kind of what it takes to be successful, and that's just, I like to watch all the great ones, though. I think you can take something from everybody.
You mentioned Dak Prescott, and you got to work with him a little bit, get to know him. He's a guy who slipped late in the draft, and he became kind of like a diamond in the rough. I think he's a pretty damn good quarterback. Obviously, he didn't have the best season with his team. The 8-8 missed the playoffs, but I think he's a guy that definitely put himself in line for a big contract and could continue to improve under Mike McCarthy. But can you tell us a little bit about Dak Prescott? Maybe we don't know, something we don't necessarily see just watching him on TV.
Yeah, kind of like I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of guys that can throw the ball well, and Dak certainly can. But, what separates him are the intangibles. Like I mentioned, the leadership. I've never seen a leader like him. The relationships that he had with every guy on the team, every coach in the building, every trainer, it really blew me away. The way he played with toughness at the quarterback position, I think that sets the example for the entire team. The way he prepared week to week to get himself ready to go, physically and mentally with the game plan. Preparing for each new defense, it really blew me away. He just all those little things that it takes to be successful, he does all of them. So, his success has been no surprise to me and those that know him, and I'm sure he'll carry that out for the rest of his career. When
you told your parents and you told your family, hey, you know what, I'm going to take this football thing a little more seriously. I'm going to go, I'm going to take it a step further in high school. I'm going to go play college. I really want to try and be a starting quarterback. And then now, going pro, I mean, were they initially supportive, or did they say, hey, man, maybe try to lean more into that business side?
Yeah, no, my parents have been great. Both of them. They've always pushed me. They've always supported me with everything that I do. My dad's been, since I was 7 years old, pushing me out in the front yard, working on my 3-step drop and those kind of things. He kind of instilled that work ethic in me from an early age. And, my mom's always been my biggest fan. She tells people stories all the time. When I was in 6th or 7th grade, she used to take me down to school at 7 a.m. in the summers just so I could get a workout in and then have to drive back and pick me up at 8:30, just because, that's what I saw the pros were doing. So that's what I wanted to do. So she still laughs about that. But no, they've always been, my biggest fans. And, I'm so thankful to have them both.
Who was the first person that noticed you were different from the other kids in a sense that they pointed you out and said, hey, man, if you keep this up, you could go somewhere with it?
That's definitely my parents. They were both huge with that. When I got into high school, I had a couple coaches, that had really big impacts on me. And, they both, it was two guys really, and I got to be really close with them, and they kind of just showed me like, hey man, you put the work into this, you can really go places, and that meant a lot to me. I was 13, 14-year-old kid. When you have somebody tell you that, it means a lot. So that kind of pushed me and showed me that if I put the time in, do my due diligence over these next 4 years, hopefully I'll have the chance to play in college, which was a dream of mine. So thankfully that came true.
What's the biggest misconception about playing the quarterback position?
That's tough. I think people, a lot of people think we're kind of prima donnas, and you just kind of show up and you throw a pretty ball and you throw touchdowns and you're on the front page of the paper. But I think if you asked any quarterback, and a lot of people that know football, it's probably the hardest position in sports. You kind of got to understand where 11 guys are on the defensive side of the ball, and then understand the scheme that you're implementing on your side, and kind of how all that works together, and be able to go execute a game plan. And you got to be a coach on the field. You're managing the time, you're managing the clock, managing, down and distance, all those kind of things. It truly is a challenge every down, and you got to prepare every week, because every Sunday or Saturday, whatever it is, it's like taking a test.
This has been a great conversation, but I want to get to know a little bit more about Nick. So we got some quick hits here. You ready?
All right, let's do it.
What's your favorite cheat meal?
Pizza, no doubt.
Good man. Good Italian, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay. I am not Italian, but I have a lot of Italian friends being from New Jersey, and I
can
respect the pizza.
No doubt.
All right. What is the weirdest question you've ever been asked by a scout or media member?
Weirdest question. This isn't a question, but we had a scout come through this past fall, and he asked me to strip down to my underwear so he could take a picture on his phone of me. I thought that was pretty strange, but that's probably the weirdest. Yeah.
Biggest life lesson you've learned from football so far?
Yeah, the biggest life lesson, for me, when I went to Mississippi State, I redshirted, and that next season competing for the job, 19 years old, I thought I was going to go win the Heisman Trophy. So to kind of go through that, not necessarily a failure, but not to win the starting job and kind of have to go through the adversity of that and having to transfer, kind of forced me to grow up and kind of showed me, even sometimes you do put all the work in, it still doesn't go your way. But that's okay. You can still learn from it, pick yourself back up, and go chase the next opportunity. And, that's what I was able to do. Thankfully, I learned from that situation, and, I think it made me better and made me who I am today.
Who's the most talented guy you've played with or against?
Ooh, let's see. Most talented guy. There's a handful. I don't want to leave anybody hanging. Let's see. An easy one just because I watched him in the playoffs. Man, I played with Jeffrey Simmons for your D tackle for the Titans now. Man, Jeffrey came in when I was at Mississippi State, and, we didn't have anybody that could block him, and it looks like guys in the NFL are having a hard time too. So he's pretty awesome. Obviously Dak was pretty good. I've played with a handful of guys at Chattanooga that were great too. That's a tough question.
I heard that you have a love of your life. Well, actually two. First of all, Congratulations. I heard you just got engaged.
I did. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Now, from what I understand, your wife-to-be, Chloe, played soccer at Alabama?
She did. Yeah. She played for 4 years at Alabama. So she's probably more athletic than me.
Now, is there a rivalry between you two? You being in Chattanooga and her in Alabama?
No, she's from Chattanooga. She loves UTC. I give her a hard time about Alabama football all the time, but she handles it pretty well. And
then your other love of your life, from what I heard, is a gentleman named Hank. Actually, he's your dog.
Oh, he's definitely man. Hank's the man. Yeah, so he's my 2-year-old golden doodle. Hey, he's what gets me out of bed in the morning. Man, he's been great. Me and Chloe got him a couple years ago. Man, he's awesome. He's an amazing dog. We have so much fun with him every day. Take him to the park. He lightens up the room when he's around. So we love having him, man. He's awesome.
Besides going to a football or basketball game, what's the most fun thing to do in Chattanooga?
Let's see. Well, Chattanooga's great, man. If you haven't been, you need to visit. But I love to play golf. Chattanooga's got awesome golf courses. Super outdoorsy town. Rock climbing. Kayaking, all those kind of things. Going out on the lake, the Tennessee River is great. The downtown area is awesome. Got great restaurants. It's a super cool town, man. I would recommend anybody to go visit. Who's the funniest player you've played with? Ooh, funniest player that I've played with. That is a tough question. I would probably have to say my center from this past season. His name's Kyle Miskelly. Back at Chattanooga, man, he's one of the funniest dudes I've ever met. From Alabama, Just a funny guy, man. Everything about him.
Is there any story you're allowed to tell about him?
I don't know. I don't know that I should.
What do you like to do for fun besides football?
Yeah, so like I said, golf. I love to play golf when I get the chance. Take Hank to the dog park. Love going to the movies, man. I love going to get a popcorn and a Coke. I think that's a great way to spend a Friday night.
Old school. I like that.
Yeah, no doubt.
What's your favorite movie?
Ooh, favorite movie. That's tough. Let's see. I love The Dark Knight, Batman, the Joker, all that. I love The Godfather. That's one that, my dad's made me watch since I was little, just being Italian. Remember the Titans is a great one. That's a classic. So yeah, I got it. Those are a handful of my favorites.
Did you watch The Irishman?
I have not seen it. Somebody just told me recently that that's a great movie. I need to go watch it.
It is a great movie, but it is longer than a football game. So just still.
It is. Yeah. What is it? 3 hours or close?
3.5 hours.
Oh man. Yeah. I'm going to have to waste a Saturday away on that.
Listen, if you could get through that, I think you could get through the combine. So
for sure.
I think you'll be right there. All right.
Yep.
Before we let you go, man, we do appreciate the time. What's the best piece of advice you could give anybody that's playing right now in middle school, high school, maybe even in college right now that has any inkling of wanting to go pro one day?
Yeah. Obviously everybody's going to tell you to put the work in. What I would tell all those guys though is just enjoy it, man, because it flies by. High school and college football is the time of your life. And I know everybody tells you this, and people told me this and I didn't listen to them, but it's really over in the blink of an eye. And I think enjoying the process, the work, the good times, the bad, the wins, the losses, I think you learn from everything, you grow from everything. You can have a ton of fun and prepare and hopefully give yourself a chance to keep on playing. So, man, that would be my biggest piece of advice for anybody.
Well, Nick, it was a pleasure getting to know you a little bit more, man. I wish you the very best in the NFL draft process. I know it's a whole new world for you. We hope to see your name and see you called on draft night. Where can fans find you online?
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter, Instagram. My handle's just my name, just at Nick Tiano. Got Facebook. So yeah, anywhere, man. And thanks so much again for having me on. I really enjoyed it, and I appreciate you taking the time. So hopefully we'll get to do it again.
For sure. Look, when you get drafted, when you sign with the team, okay, you better promise us an interview. I don't want you to forget about us.
No doubt. We'll do it for sure.